And we are recording. Okay, as always, I am Brian Kynes, the creator of the Tales of Ulran storyline and campaign setting. We use Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition to play out our story. I rep the background, and these awesome folks around me help me write the story one campaign at a time, one game at a time. And we're joined once again by Alex. Sorry, this side, Alex. She's been on hiatus doing some classes and things, but was able to free up a Sunday night to join us. Thanks for being here, Alex. These folks need a cleric. They desperately do. There's only so much Tamyra can do with her bonus actions to keep people afloat, so it's fantastic. Down below us, of course, as always, Heather and Kara playing Sylowen and Tamyra. Jeremy's with us playing Mirk, which pilots Brahmas. And then over on this side of me is Sean playing a newly and slightly changed version of Sha-dae, now deciding to take the route of taking on a more male masculine form. So the last time we played, was it 1 week or 2 weeks ago? It was 2 weeks, wasn't it? Because Easter. We skipped it. Okay. So everyone finally got some sleep. We all know how that all went for everybody. Some people slept better than others. We're not going to say any names. I've already went over with Alex some of the things that's happened in the background, the things that she's been doing, and about this shadow goblin attack on the whole freaking city. Okay. When everyone wakes up, we've kind of went into the idea that these letters have been distributed by somebody, although no one has actually laid eyes or saw anyone that delivered the messages. But there's a certain amount of wealth to be handed out to you all for the different deeds that you've done, not just for the city, but for other factions of the city as well. I think we've got, the Frost Worms battle. We've got, if you were part of this goblins thing, there's that. Several different things that went on for helping with the gladiator fights and beating the behemoths, which Oma was definitely part of on that. So there's a lot of things to be passed out to people today, and they have said that was happening at, we'll say, roughly noon at Vander's shop on the lowest level of the city. There's a name I gave to that. It begins with an R. It's not just Vander's shop. It's like Vander's Remnants or something like that. It's a much cooler name than Vander's Magic Shop. I'll have to look it up later and see what it was. For now, we'll call it Remnants. Okay? Let's start. Let's go ahead and start with, well, it won't be Heather and Kara because they decided to leave. Having said that, it's going to be Alex. Okay. So, Alex, the night went better than you had expected. Gleandrias, I've talked to you about the after effects of this mask and what she's been personally going through. And it's almost like the movies you see when a person has real bad PTSD. And there have been moments where you've been near her that she seems to just kind of stare off, looking around at shadows, at things that aren't actually there. And throughout the night, there was only one particular time that you heard her calling out. They had, where you were at personally, mind you, the Dreadnought is a strange ship to you. It doesn't have all the luxuries and comforts that the Lion does. This is a military vessel. And you just kind of, you've slept in rougher places, being where you're from. But the one thing that really jumped out at you was, you remember her yelling out the name Asliar a couple different times, as if she were yelling out for him to be careful. This form that she yelled out, and you know him as the Drowned Kiss. You remember him, Alex?
Yeah.
Okay. You definitely heard her yell out his name several different times. And then just as soon as you went to nod off and go to sleep, you heard her door open late at night. When you went up to the top of the ship to find her, always trying to keep a respectable distance from her, Aeolus has instructed you that although you're the ambassador for him, you still need to use caution and hesitation, because when you're on that ship, whatever problems they've created are now your problems. And he would not do anything to intentionally put you in harm's way. Aeolus cares quite a bit for your safety, as he's shown in the past. Okay. And as you slowly would walk out to the deck of the ship in the cold night, we're talking like 6:30, 7 in the morning, just before the sun starts to come up, she would be standing there with robes on, wrapping herself, with the hood up, covering all the snakes, and just staring off into the far distance. Respectfully, you never said a word to her. You just kind of watched her there for a while. And once you knew she was safe, you went back into your room and just peacefully tried to get a couple more hours rest. Okay? She's going to be battling with this for quite a while, and you know that. You've seen people that have entered the spirit world before and came back changed by what they've seen there. The kind of places that you freely walk through as a spirit walker can really torture someone. And some people aren't used to seeing or coming face to face with the darkness that they're capable of. You, Oma, are very, very comfortable with the fact that you're a good person. You've dealt with your demons. You can see Gleandrias just now starting to fight hers. Okay? That next morning, when you would have woke, Gleandra would have knocked on your door gently, which would have woke you up, which was surprising. You didn't think you would sleep that well. And as you would go to answer the door, she would have a piece of parchment that is rolled up with a wax stamp of the city, which is the black and gold of the hawk on it. And she would look to you and she says, this came to you not but maybe a half an hour ago. She holds out the letter, and she looks over your shoulders. She's almost 9 inches taller than you. And she looks at the conditions that you're sleeping in. And she looks at you and she kind of shakes her head sarcastically and raises an eyebrow. She says, surely we could do something better for you than that. Because you know the accommodations weren't great. Okay? As she does, she goes, having said that, how long must this continue? When do you believe I'll be free of this?
It's hard to say. I haven't seen anything quite like this before.
You know of anyone I could ask that may have answers?
The only person I could think of who might have an inkling would be Vander.
She nods. Yeah, go ahead.
We cannot hear Alex at all.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I could barely hear you. I was really listening in. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, like Oma's not a real loud person. You know, she's gonna be like, I don't know who can help you. I don't know. So Glenn would be like, what the hell? Okay. So having said that, it's funny to see her be so defenseless in your presence. This is Gleandrias. This is the Medusa ship captain of the freaking dreadnought. I mean, for her to seem this innocent, this frail in front of you, it's very strange, Alex, I would have to say. With that, she pulls her robe around her a little bit tighter, and she goes, I should, over her shoulder as she's going to her room, she goes, I should be fine for the remainder of the day. Go then. And if you choose to see this Vander today, ask him. I don't know if I have days to spare on this. This has already taken months from me. There is no cost. There is no price that would be too high. I simply need to know how. You understand?
Yes, I understand.
And she turns, trying to muster up whatever kind of faith she has in herself, and goes to her room, shuts the door behind her. You're left with this scroll in your hands in a strange ship. What do you do?
I open the scroll.
Awesome. Okay. You're like, I throw it over the ship, Brian. I say to hell with it. I don't like it. So, so in the scroll, it talks about several different deeds that have been done, like we were listing a little bit ago. And your name is on at least 2 of those. And there are different gold amounts involved in this. And when you see these numbers, it's shocking. Because if we haven't described this already for all of you, this is a very simple build. Because I don't play D&D based on money and wealth and things too often until the group starts wanting material things. Okay? Your wants dictate how much I bring money into our game. So copper pieces are like pennies.
I want everything.
And by God, you shall have it, sir. Silver pieces are like dollars. Okay? Gold pieces are like $100 bills. And platinum pieces are like $1,000 bills. That's how it works. Now, I'm not going to get into details about how much they weigh and all that kind of shit. If you have so much gold on you and you have so much this, that, and the other, figure it out. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and say Oma is encumbered from carrying 752 silver around with her as she drags it up and down from Skywell. She's got quads like this. It's just ridiculous, I'm not going to go through all that. But the thing is,
in the event that encumbrance does matter, Brahmas would be more than happy to hold everybody's gold.
Brahmas is like bank Brahmas. Bank Brahmas.
Oh, I'm so wealthy. What do I do? I can't move anywhere.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm just full.
Just opens up a vault.
I guarantee it'd be like the suction thing, the tube. On the banks. I want that really bad. We need to find that accessory for you, Brahmas. It'll be an inner realm, one of the doors that opens up inside of you. This would be someone back there typing on things. Be good shit. But there are written notes for money, but I haven't explored that very much. We can, if that makes things better. There are promissory notes from the king and things of that nature to give you a certain amount of credit. But other than that, that's the standard. Okay? So you see, from the way this looks, you're going to be sitting easily on about, from the basic math that you've done, at about 1,700 gold pieces after this is all done. On your side of it, yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's substantial. The regular cost of living a month for what you're doing is nothing compared to what this is. I mean, you hardly ever pay for a meal with a gold piece. It's just, that's way too much. It's like $100. You don't eat Red Lobster all the time, shit. So you have to imagine that this amount of money is substantial. And that's going to be given to you at Vander's at noon today. So, in light of that, Alex, what would Oma like to do with her time between now, which we'll say this is like 8:39 in the morning, from there till noon, just give me a rough idea about what Oma would like to do throughout the day. Do you want to go visit the ship? Do you want to talk to Aeolus? Do you want to see anyone? Do you want to go to any particular shop? Do you want to start writing down a bunch of notes of this is what I want, and this is what I want, yada yada? Or you just let me know. Do you need some time to think about it, or do you have an idea?
I have a vague idea.
Okay.
I will want to have to spend some on raw materials, ingredients, particularly the for raised dead. Just some, because that's one of the more expensive ones.
Mhm.
Just to kitty, just to have in my back pocket. But I also want to talk to Aeolus to see what in the world I could do to safeguard that vast amount. And I'd also like to probably find an orphanage to patron or something.
We can definitely do that. That would be cool. Okay, cool. So, like I said, guys, 4 pages of notes, no orphanages. None. There's none. So we'll do it live. So it's all good. Like I said earlier. Okay, so with that, we'll get back to you in just a minute, okay?
Okay.
You know what? For the hell of it, let's do this. Do an investigation check for me, please. I'm gonna say this is how your day goes.
$13.
13?
Mhm.
Okay. You were able, through the normal means of going down Skywell, going into the lower levels, and finding spell components and things like that. And you took notes because you don't have the money yet.
Mhm.
But you're taking notes on things that you use in your spell casting. And as you were going through, you were looking for somewhere like that to be a patron to and things of this nature. And you didn't find exactly that. You didn't find exactly an orphanage. Now, you asked some people and heard some rumors. And strangely enough, when you did, people were kind of defensive and a little bit quiet about it. You have a feeling that a couple of folks that you asked might have known,
Mhm.
but they didn't want to say it to you for one reason or another. Like it was a little bit, it's almost like if people ask about the mob or something. It had that kind of feel to it. And you're not quite sure why. You might want to make a note of that in your notes, okay?
Okay.
But you did find one particular interesting thing in a brief conversation you had of 2 individuals that might be something to invest in with 13. Let me make sure to write this if I have this written. Here it is. Okay. So, you briefly remember hearing about this brother and sister duo that were from some kind of distant land, almost what would be our world's version of like a Tibetan area. Okay, Buddhism, things of that nature, very colorful. I don't know if you'd want to call it Asian looking, but just Tibetan looking people. And when you search them out, there is a brother and sister that are trying to open up a shop here in town. And what they are is they do rare and exquisite garments and armaments, like armors. They even do costumes. But what they do is they do this in a very natural way, almost as if like you found Native American people that were quilting blankets out of actual real stuff and replicating things that were done in the past. They like to go to places and take the leftovers from different animals that have been defeated, different monsters that have been captured, and they like to make garments that not only look like the animal, but give it pay it its due, give it homage. And they have some exquisite looking things. When you go up to where they are actually at, they don't even have a building. They're on the street, in between some buildings, with a piece of cloth-like tent with two stakes in it holding up over top of them to keep the snow off of them. And it's almost like being in a Renaissance fair. They have some exquisite looking shit. It's almost like going to Dollar General and then going into Pier 1 for armor and being like, whoa, that's good, They have some neat looking things that involve all kinds of bones and feathers and scales. Oh my. And the things they do with them are equal parts artistic as they would be functional. This would pique your interest. Okay? As you see, the brother and sister, they both have very long braided hair and are dressed very colorfully in blues, orange, reds, and whites. This is a mixture of not heavy clothing. For this time of year, their clothing is actually quite light. And they have large furs thrown over top of their shoulders because they can't stay warm with what they typically wear. It's kind of revealing what they wear. Tattooed in different places, definitely from somewhere else. Do you say anything to them as you approach, or are you just looking for now?
For now, I'm just looking.
Okay. Roll me a perception check, please.
Oh, 17.
Nicely done. Okay, so something I forgot to mention to you earlier. You were given a large, I don't know what you'd call it, kind of like a cloak, but it was made from some of the materials of the frostworm. There were frostworm scales and different parts of it that were harvested, and it also has some ice wolf fur added into it, and it was given to you by some of the dwarves at the Dwarven Wake in appreciation for what you did for all of them when you were there. But it is large. It is too big for you to wear, and it would be nice to take something like that and put into the hands of these people and see if they could make something out of it that would actually work with what you do.
Okay.
So that's a note also that you could probably come back and revisit. Okay? Because now you have this big thing that's going to keep you from being able to move and shit. But pretty much when you see what these people could do with things, you know that they could turn that into something that you could wear that would not only help you, but would be very nice. It would look very traditional, and it's really piqued your interest. Okay, so we'll go there for now. The next person we're going to talk about is going to be Tamyra, because you're kind of on your own right now. The rest of them are already headed there. Okay, so with you, Tamyra, when you start coming down the stairway and you hear Vander waking up behind you, did you already have the letter? Have you already found the letter that said?
I did.
Okay. And what is your goal as for right now? Are you looking to eat? Are you looking to see how people are doing? As you walk down the hallway, getting ready to go downstairs into the main lobby of the Heart of the Beast, what's your goal?
My goal is probably going to be to grab some breakfast and then start heading down to Vander's.
Okay. We can say since you were out fairly late, roll me a 1d4. 8 o'clock is when you would have got up, and every number adds an hour.
3.
Okay, so you didn't get up till like 11.
I was
So you
sleepy.
don't have a whole lot of time. Okay, so as you get up and you are walking down there, you hear Vander staring, but you didn't see her get out of her room. You come downstairs, and Gwenyth is just now looking at some plans with Wynonna at the counter. And Wynonna is excitedly talking about the potentials of something that could be coming up soon. There's a lot of pointing on the paper, and there's a lot of her accent, and she's a very fiery, middle-aged dwarven woman, and she stands on a certain pedestal that always makes you laugh when she goes up to the bar and she's talking to Gwenyth, which as a centurion woman is always much taller. Do you remember Gwenyth and what she looks like and everything?
Yeah, and Gwenyth is the owner of the Heart of the Beast.
Yeah, she's a centaur, and she is the kind of centaur that looks like a white and gray mix, almost like spiderweb like patterns. I forget the name of the type of horse that is, but that's the way she looks in centaur form. Very beautiful, long, um, more gray than silver hair, um, and very noble type woman. We said that she looked like the uh, the actress that played Jenny in Forrest Gump,
Hmm.
and also played Wonder Woman's teacher in the Wonder Woman movies that came out recently. Robin Wright, I think is her name. She looks like her. Okay. And as the two are going over things, she notices you first, and she turns her head to you, and she arcs an eyebrow, and you can see her pointed ear move just well. They're not as pointed as an elves; they're kind of halfway, and it kind of kicks to the side a little bit, and she looks past you as if to see Vander is coming down too, and gives you a nod, and goes back to talking with Winona. She doesn't want to disturb you. She knows it's been a long night. As you look around, roll me a perception check, please.
Oh, that's good. Wisdom, charisma, 23.
Awesome. This place looks um, like they're getting ready for something. There's some big hunt coming up. Winona has got the blueprints out. You can hear in the background that half orc character seems to be back here yelling out things like, "I've prepared the wheels. I'll need you to handle the ropes, though. I can't get things in place without you. Come on now." And he's yelling from the other side. This is that big guy that you met on the front porch as you were coming in here.
Mhm.
Okay. She goes, "All right, I'll be there as soon as I can." And she's going over plans. Here's the thing. She goes, "If we could get all the feathers off the thing and take them in here, gods know how much we could have, how much we could actually be able to use this time around. It's going to be ridiculous." Gwenyth is just looking over this. Winona is very, very excited about the whole thing. Um, yeah, she's heard enough of that. Just come on, come back. You can boss me around for a change. Just leave her alone. All right, to be here in a minute. Okay. So with a cold, that's the best voices you're going to get out of me all night. That's all I got, people.
That was a solid 9 out of 10 right there.
Hey, I appreciate Sean. I do really. Okay. So I see Sean laughing. I know shit's getting real. Okay. So as she wanders off, bitching and moaning and pulling her pants up, she's got what we like to call a caboose. Winona is a bottom-heavy woman, but extremely proud of the way she's built. As she goes and waddles her way back into that shop, um, Gwenyth says to you without looking up, she goes and she has a certain grace to her voice, a lot of experience to her. And she goes, I would have to assume that you'd be hungry. Or maybe not. You were out late drinking, I would have to assume.
Tamyra goes, yes and yes.
What we have laid out will do then. As you look over, you can see how there's several different tables inside this place. Then they actually have a couple more outside for customers that are waiting. There seems to be some kind of jerky that's almost too big around to be a jerky. It almost looks like dried sausages that are tied up in lengths of about 4 or 5. And they are laid out on a platter with crackers and a butter knife on a wooden bowl. And they are laying on the far end. She goes, "I had laid those out for Vander, but for some reason it seems that someone talked some sense into her, and she didn't drink, nor did she eat the food I laid out. Wonder what might have changed that." And she kind of cocks half a smile and she looks at you for a long moment. She goes, I can only assume to say that it's practically yours to have.
Tamyra thanks her kindly and says, I'm going to take this to go. I have somewhere to be.
She goes, about that, we have a contract we've agreed on, yes?
Yes.
And I understand that without the city, we don't have a business. I understand that. But I hired you because I'll need you. So, whatever you decide to do with your next several days, whether it's watching the ships going from here to your homeland, or going on adventures with your friends, remember to have grace and see me soon about work.
Tamyra nods and says, I'll be back this evening.
I'll not find anyone to replace you, nor have I even started to look. But it has been a while since we've done some hunting, and I grow tired of listening to Winona.
Tamyra nods and, graciously, gives her yes, we will be back later. So
Okay.
they're on good terms.
Okay. So as you pick these things up, you're headed out and you're headed to Vander's?
Correct.
Okay. You have an hour to spend between here and there. It usually takes about a half hour to get there. Just for the hell of it, roll me a 1d20. A 20, very bad things come your way. One, it's a pleasant stroll in the morning.
15.
I'll be damned. We'll get there.
Perfect.
There.
Can't
Okay.
wait.
Jeremy.
Oh, we'll get there.
We'll get there. Jeremy. The morning comes. Not that you could tell in the place that you're staying, but this place seems to have its own building chemistry. The way that things change, the way that a light comes through the windows of this place, although you know there's no light to be had. It is totally of your own mind in this place. As you come to in a particular chamber you wish to spend the night in, however you want to make your comforts, I'll leave to you and your imagination. Okay? As you begin your ritual of getting up in the morning, and the thought of this ocean water, this battle that you know you've never taken part in, these things bother you because you've had so much time to reflect down here, and you're just now starting to reflect on you. You're no more looking into what this thing is. You're looking into this construct, as how much of it unlocks things of yourself. And you're finally starting to get to that point. And you're wondering, with a little bit of fear, like you said the other day, have I died before? I want you to roll a perception check, please.
18.
An 18. In the room, I will say, as you usually do in many different rooms throughout Brahmas, they are created in the shadowy image of different places you've been. They are always constantly moving and changing around, as we've discussed. And you usually have piles of books and lit candles, things like that, laying about. And this one particular morning, as you are walking past the table, getting ready to go out into that main chamber where the three church-like windows are, you notice an open book laying on the table that blows through a couple pages with a gentle breeze. Okay? And you don't remember doing any reading last night. What do you do?
I'm going to take a look at it.
As you go over and you look at the book briefly, you see an illustration in the page. And it's very strange. You get that sensation of deja vu deep in the soul of your being when you look at this image. And it is a depiction of a winged warrior type woman, but just her outline. This is sketched in an old ink-like passion form with crosshatch like old school drawing, like Da Vinci type drawing shit. Okay. Flying up beyond mountains, and beneath her are also the silhouettes drawn of all kinds of different warriors and knights and things that are following her up, as if she is pulling them up into some kind of battle. And when you look at that for just a minute, when you blink your eyes, you can almost see a similar woman, like you were looking up to her. You can see the chainmail that wraps around her and blows in the wind. You can see the actual large white feathers that adorned the helmet that was on her head. You could see the spear tip that she had blocking out the sun as you were blinking. You get a flash of it. You remember wings. And you're remembering this cry of battle from all around you. Almost like being right beside the subwoofers at like a Metallica concert, okay, is real. And just that flash, you have that little recollection of that picture. And then it's gone. You shouldn't dwell on it possibly, but you're just not sure. It just seems like as you were dreaming and thinking about this thing, this place started searching for you. It's strange the control you have over this realm and how odd things happen to always seem to be based on one of your emotions or your will or something like that. But this is a new one. This is a new one. This is a physical proof that this place knows what you're thinking when you're sleeping and is trying to accommodate. What are you doing?
Is there anything else to note in the book?
Roll investigation check.
12.
Okay. One other thing. What would you particularly be looking for, Jeremy? Are you just looking for another image? Is there something like a question you want answered, or do you want something random?
It's mostly just that sparked what you described, and he's just going to look and see if there's anything else related to that.
Okay. With it, you said 12 is what you rolled?
Okay, he's not going to be like
No, right
studying it by
hand.
any means, just kind of flipping through, seeing if there's anything that sparks a thought.
Okay. There's a passage talking about the eternal favor. Okay. And that this thing that you have to assume that you saw in this image, they're calling a beckoner of warriors' souls. And then you see a word in there that describes it in later detail, written many different times over. Now you've seen this word, you can pick it out, and the word is Valkyrie. Okay. you've heard the word Valkyrie before, but it wasn't your particular religion, but you've heard it. It's a mythological thing, as being maidens of eternal battle, people that guide lost souls, all kinds of fantastical stories, and you see reference to that. And you had a flash of seeing something. And you almost have to think to yourself with that 12, you're thinking, I'm letting this place start to create stuff in my head now. There's no way that's real. You know what I mean? And it's strange to you, if it's got a book and it's putting it out here, who's to say I'm not the victim of other memories that were put in this place that are starting to meld with my own? I'm not quite sure how to perceive this, but I've heard of a Valkyrie. And now I've just had a flash of an image of it. That's what you would get out of that. Did it work for you? Okay. As you go up to begin to pilot Brahmas, what is it you're wanting to do? Are you just heading out into the shop to see Vander, or is there anything you had planned for the day?
First things first is going to talk to Vander.
Okay. Roll me a 1d4.
4.
4. You're just now getting up around 11:30, 12 o'clock. So you've been in there for quite a while. So you could have had all kinds of stirring things going on, what's made this book kind of appear. You don't know. But you could tell it's getting to be midday. And you make your way out of the lower layers of this place to the main chamber. I'll bring you up there when everybody else is already there. Okay? With you, Sha-dae, you had your own quarters. Where did you stay last night?
I stayed in my own quarters on the
That's right. Okay.
the dreadnought.
You already met. You've got your food. You've got your FUD from Sylowen, and you guys are headed down Skywell, and you were headed to Vander's shop as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Sylowen, when you got up and redid the room, went to Leah's, had that meal with Dahan, we're going to say, just for expedience, that it's getting to be close to noon. Seems to work out. Okay. Along the way with you two, is there anything else, any conversations that you two would have liked to have had? And was Ignatius going as well? Was he walking with you guys as well? I can't remember, Sylowen.
No, I don't think he was. I don't remember what he was doing though. But he was up on a balcony.
Yeah, he was just contemplating things about Bastille. He had mentioned some things that this rogue, this elven rogue, meant a lot to him. He was worried about where he was. Because remember, Rosalia was asking, if you hear anything about where Bastille is, let me know. I think you actually mentioned to Ignatius if he knew where Bastille was, and he told you he didn't. Do you remember that conversation? Okay. So he's up there contemplating this lowlander friend that he's made, and doesn't know exactly what to say. Is there anything that you two particularly like to talk about on your way to Vander's shop, or would you like me to just have you all arrive there? It's up to you. You good?
I just book it.
Sha-dae is just stuffing her face as she as they make their way to Vander's shop.
Okay. So as the food is almost gone, and by the way, for leftovers, John, it's pretty good fucking stuff. She spent some money on it. It's going to be good, and she knows that she has more money coming to her soon. And she's, if I remember correctly, Sylowen was super excited about all the possibilities. There was a lot on her mind, especially when she started looking at these numbers and being like, "Holy crap! We could do this here." It's like you're used to being in this utopia society where that shit didn't matter, but this is different. As you all head to Vander's, I will say that Sha-dae, Tamyra, Sylowen, and Oma are all arriving roughly within just about 5-10 minutes of each other. Do some of you wait outside? Do some of you go on inside? Where's your hangout spot when you go here? You've been to Vander's shop many times. The layout is the library's up top with the loft bedroom that holds Ember, the little cloaked girl that seems to be a steward of his. Vander has those 2 long staircases that comes down, the 2 fireplaces, 2 tables, then a patio that has 2 stone benches where people eat lunches outside, covered from the rain and snow. The door is wide open. There are some pedestrians that are sitting on the front patio, reading some books, almost like if you went by a Starbucks and there's people sitting there that just seem to be there reading all day, looking intellectual. That's what you have on the front porch of his place. There's always a
Can
lot of
Sha-dae,
good books.
can Sha-dae like cut a quick glance at what they're reading? Just the title of the cover.
Absolutely. So as you are walking up their steps and you look over, this seems to be a Kama Sutra of some kind, only for dwarves. It's called Tumbler's Delight. Okay? And it seems to have depictions of very gruff things, and you hear a whispered voice being like, I told you they shaved their beards. I told you they grew them. It's like, girls don't grow beards. It's like, yes, they do. Yes, they do. Right here, an episode, and in those pages, he's talking about how this one maneuver that they're doing is where they actually tie their beards into a knot to lock each other together. So he says either this is something, this is, okay, that is what you hear as you are looking over. Roll a stealth check as you're doing this.
Okay, that is a 25.
Okay, they do not notice you eavesdropping on them. And you hear, and you know that the name of this sexual position that they're reading about is called the love knot.
Love not. Okay.
The love knot. And it is when a female and a male dwarven character, they grow their beards out and they tie them in a knot together, and there are other things involved. And that is what they are reading on the porch.
I'm going to make my way into the store. Just be like, make my way into the store because I really want to get this urn unloaded and out of my stuff. But as I pass by, I kind of like make a slight pass in my hand, and I make the sounds of like what I assume dwarves are grunting and moaning in their ears.
Roll a performance check. We'll see if you do some like mannequin shit or what happens here.
That was actually a pretty good roll.
Uh-oh.
That's for a total of 20.
That's not bad. 20. So you're trying to make a sleight of hand sounds of dwarves having rough sex, kind of a grunt moan kind of thing. Like you by a horse, you're going or something. Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
As you do that,
Does Sylowen see this? Like, because I'm walking.
roll a perception check.
That's a natural 19 plus 6, so 15 or 25.
You see this new form of Sha-dae raise a curious eye and begin to look over that direction. As you could, all you could tell is that she is up to something. Okay, and that's the thing. I don't know how you want to address Sha-dae now.
However you want it.
So it's all good.
Yeah. It's
so Sha-dae seems to have slowed down and is up to something, and you hear these sounds come out, and you know that he is mocking what would seem to be rough barbarian-like sex sounds, to the embarrassment of the people sitting over there. As you hear the stone chairs and the table scoot against the wooden floor, and there's a flustered thing as you hear the loud pop of a book closing as they look around and start looking at both of you suspiciously. Now, what's great about this is Sha-dae has planted the seed of chaos and walked on into the place. You were behind Sha-dae. So now they're looking at you, Sylowen, as the culprit for this sound. What are you doing?
What? How did that? No. I feel like we should roll to see who loses this one.
Sha-dae had rolled 25 stealth, so they didn't even notice I was there listening to that. And it was as I was
She's a
walking
ghost.
into.
Yes. Right. So, like I say, Sylowen,
19.
what do you do?
I guess I'd be like, cool book, and I just go inside.
Not nice. These are two younger humans that seem to be exploring some kind of book. You're not quite sure what it is, but they seem to be flushed and quite embarrassed by your words.
Well,
As you head on in, do you head on in the place, or are you still
yeah,
out
I
there?
head inside.
Okay. Tamyra, you are just now getting there. As you are eating this food, it's good. It's not as tough as you would have thought it was, but it is salty. And you are a bit hungover. And you realize the ironic joke of Gwenyth giving you this is she knows you need water this morning. And to offer out a plate of jerky, it's like her way of getting back at Vander for how she goes out and drinks all the time. And now you are also privy to that same cruel joke. Roll a constitution check.
18.
You are able to stem back the cottonmouth effect, but it's starting to get pretty damn. You're needing something to drink pretty quick. It's
I
pretty
hope
damn
Vander
salty.
has a pitcher of water waiting.
Right on. We'll see what happens. As you head into this place, you see Sylowen and you see that she has her armor on her with her helmet carrying at her side, her lance available, and you see two shocked young human village folk staring at her as she walks into the place. Um, as you look at the situation for a minute and you're just thinking to yourself whatever you would, you know, uh, you hear gentle humming coming from down the street, native sounding humming, and you look over and you would see Oma's character. Uh, Oma likes to hum the ancient uh, passages and songs and shit from her people a lot of times under her breath. It's one of the things that Dahon really likes about being sleeping by her on the ship. When she does this at night, it helps calm him and helps him sleep. And she does this a lot of times anywhere she goes. You haven't seen Oma for a while. And it's nice to lay eyes on her. Is there anything you wish to say?
I guess if I see her walking, I give Oma a friendly wave and kind of nudge her to come over near me and we can walk in together.
Okay, go ahead, Alex. What's going on?
I'd say hello. Haven't seen you in a while. How have you been?
Tamyra said, "Well, we've been through it. We've definitely missed your presence, but we're all here, and it seems like today's a good day to collect on all the good things we've done for the city."
Okay. With that, you two would go ahead and head on into the place. As Oma, you're going in, you actually have to sidestep because the two humans are leaving. They've seemed to gather up the book. They've left a couple coins on the table as a tip, and they are walking away, looking back over their shoulder a lot nervously as the two hold hands. Obviously, they're a young couple, investigating maybe something new, and are headed down the street with their new tome and tote. So, you guys are there. Brahmas, you come up the main passageway. You use the amulet that he gave you to unlock the main door of the sun in the pages in the book. Remember this? And as you open up, you see that Sha-dae is in there. Sha-dae, is Isadora out or away?
She's in her own little pocket dimension.
Okay. So you would see a more masculine, male-looking version of Sha-dae standing there, looking in with Sylowen coming in, and seeing Sylowen in there would give you a relief, knowing that she survived whatever kind of shit she got into last night, because you know she doesn't really typically have a place here yet, and it hadn't dawned on you. Tamyra walks in briefly behind her. The whole gang is here, it would seem. Okay. With that, Vander would come from the library upstairs, and you would see the young girl Ember holding about 3 or 4 books, which are a lot for her little frame. And Vander is floating with his feet hanging down, going up and down bookshelves using a fly spell. And he's levitating different books down to her and says, and if we could go ahead and finish through the last several pages of this will help us categorize the second chamber, columns C through D. If we could take that, please. And he looks down to you all, slowly floats down to his feet, and you see her there with this big bunch of books struggling to hold it up. As she walks off towards the back, he begins to walk down the round staircase, one of the sides. And to greet you all, you hear her stumble upstairs and all the books fall. You can hear like this thunder of like calamity upstairs as she drops most of the shit. And he just kind of smiles. He looks up, he goes, that should keep her busy for a while. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning. Vander, I'm here to return this item you let me borrow.
And is it intact, or how much of this particular item is left?
I believe there are about 5 uses left.
Okay. He holds out his hands for you to place that urn in. Okay. Do you do so?
Yes.
Okay. As you do, you see his hair waft a little bit supernaturally. And he whispers some low words underneath of his breath. Even if you tried to, by chance, see what he was saying, it isn't comprehensible. And he seems to trace the pattern around the top of it and hold it tight for just a minute. And this takes about 2 or 3 seconds, and closes his eyes and seems to focus on it for a moment. He takes a knowing nod and takes a deep breath and goes ahead and puts it down underneath of the main counter where he's standing. Okay? And he looks across the rest of you, and he sees certain people, and he looks at you, Oma, and he sees that paper hanging out of your cloak. And he looks over and sees Tamyra having a similar one on her. And he looks to Sylowen and realizes she doesn't have one and gives her half a grin. And kind of looks around the rest of you and says, I'm sure our guest will be here shortly. Go ahead and make yourselves comfortable at the tables. Brahmas, if you would, could you go ahead and wait outside for Valimar, and when he comes in, let's go ahead and shut down for just a bit. Lock the door behind them, please, if you will.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Brahmas would be going to stand outside almost like a bouncer. Okay. Is anybody saying anything to each other? Anything at all?
Tamyra kindly asked Vander if he has any water to spare.
Hold on.
No, there is no water.
Sylowen has some left over for breakfast that she hands over.
Tamyra graciously accepts and chugs.
As he, because I rolled natural 20, I'm trying to see if he can see what's going on here. As he looks at you for a minute, he goes to say something, and as he's going to turn around to go maybe get some stores of something to drink, he sees that Sylowen has already produced this for you. And you hear an audible chuckle come out of him. As you're finishing whatever she had, he comes down, he gives you what looks like a gourd of some kind of liquid, and he hands it out to you. And he says, and I have more to fill it up if you would require.
Tamyra bows and then shrugs.
Okay. As you're doing this, it would almost be comedic to everybody else there. As dried up as you are, having to get this down, fighting off the cobwebs. Brahmas, heading up the street from outside is Valimar. Now, Valimar, when he is not working, usually has the one bare arm. The other arm is heavily armored, showing half his chest. He has like a toga made out of red and black material that goes around, and then he has the whole kilt-like armaments from the waist down, and the large greatsword on his back. He is a true fighter of a very high level. But when he is working and doing business for the king, he has on the formal garment that they wear. He has what looks like to be the one arm is still bare, as it always is, but he's more covered. He has a tapestry of two cloaks of black and gold that go down his back, that overlap, that flap in different directions. On the left shoulder looks like a hawk's head built into the armor. And a lot of the armor has that aerodynamic look of it as if it's feathers. It's very, it's a dark metallic color. Not quite black, but almost like a smoked chrome look to what he wears. He is escorted by two high up guards. The guards are usually represented by the size of the wings they have on the sides of their helmet. And as he is being escorted, you can see that they are holding and bringing with them several sacks of goods. As he makes his way up to you, he stops at the bottom of the steps, which is a short 4 or 5 steps to get to where you're at, Brahmas. And he gives you a nod. He turns to the other two and gives them orders to take what they have and place it into the central room, into the floor. After he gives them the orders, the rest of you all see these two high-ranking knights of the City of New Gamdar walk in and lay down several different sacks and chests in the floor. It's almost like Christmas, okay? And as they do that, they don't look away. They're very, very militant and very proper. I mean, when they are bending down, they're using their legs, not their back. They're keeping their heads straight. They're very, very robotic about this. Does anyone have any kind of reaction or saying anything at this point as they come in? If not, that's fine. Okay.
I don't think Sylowen likes these people. I think they freak her out.
Right on. It would be weird because they don't even look at you. You're not even there to them. They are having a duty. And Sylowen, you'd almost think, are they mad at me? Are they being arrogant? This is very odd way for people to look. Yeah. Tamyra, of course, you would know better. You've seen this kind of thing. You were trained to do this yourself. As they turn and leave, Valimar walks up to you, Brahmas, and just gives you a nod, doesn't say words. And he walks on into the place. He takes his sword off of his back. He places it on a rack on the wall to the right and whips a sharp eye at everybody into the room. And he looks over at Vander. And he looks at Tamyra wiping the water off of her chin as she has just downed quite a bit of that. And he looks at you and he walks up to you within like 3 or 4 foot of you and looks at the gourd. He says, I can certainly use a bit of that myself. What are you saying, Tamyra?
If there's any left, I don't know if I drank it all. I could roll for that. I would gladly
roll me
hand
1d20. 20, it's empty. 1, it's full.
3.
It's
So
got a little bit.
There's enough. There's enough in there. I hand him the gourd.
As you do, there's a comedic moment. where he's like goes to grab it, assuming it would be heavier than that. And then when he feels the lightness of it, he sees that you've kind of drenched yourself like you were doing a chugging contest, and looks you over, and he goes, "I can see you all had a long night as well." And he finishes off the last bit of water and sits down there beside Vander at the booth. Okay, not the booth, the bar. Okay. He looks across the room and he says, "Although some of you aren't present, on behalf of the king," oh, what are we doing here? Alex P. entered the waiting room?
My tablet's dying.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay. So, as he looks across there and sees, "Hey, it's Alex, everybody, hey." Cool. All right. So, he rolls out a ledger. Okay. And as he's looking at it, he's looking around. You can see him silently saying things. He's going, "Sha-dae, yeah, I got Mirk." Okay. He says, "All right." And he reads some official things written by the king. It is very formal. It is written in a way that people don't speak anymore. It's almost like when you read like the Constitution of Independence and you realize this is a way that people don't typically speak anymore unless it's a high-ranking thing with etiquette. Okay, and that's the way he's coming across with this message. It talks about the battle with the Frostworm. It talks about the battles with the Behemoth, and proved how they could be felled, and everyone's bravery in doing that. It talks about the raid last night from the Shadow Goblins. It mentions different things, and it even mentions briefly that someone particularly owes you some money, which is added to this, for a fight with Adam in the middle of the street, which is that was that automated golem-like construct that you guys did battle with just outside this very door. Okay, and he talks to each one of you individually. He starts with Sha-dae, and he pulls you up. I'm going to write these down. Might want to get ready to write these down, guys, because this is going to be important. Okay. Okay. So, of these fights, I'm going to write some of these down. If you did something in these fights, let me know. Okay. So right now we're going to do Frostworm, and let's go ahead and do. We got Sha-dae. We've got Sylowen. We've got Tamyra. We've got Oma. We've got Brahmas. You got Frostworm. You've got the Shadow Goblins. We've got the Adam. We've got the what's some other things that we've done? Oh, we did that thing for the tombs. I don't think any of you guys were in that one. We've also got the deeds that were done for trying to think.
Did Dahan come to Vander's?
No, he did not.
Okay.
No, he's not. Okay, so if you were a part of the Frostworm battle, raise your hand.
Was I?
You were. That was before you started.
Was I?
I don't think you were,
Oh.
Tamyra. Okay. So Sha-dae was.
Valdero was.
Valdera was, yes.
Yeah.
So you could probably take Valdera's share to her, Tamyra. Okay. Oma. Promise. Okay. For that
Did
one,
Valdera get a note?
you
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
You don't know. Okay. So let me do this real quick. Gold, platinum, and silver. Okay. Let's do. Okay. So. Ooh, shit. 20. Okay, so, Sha-dae, for your role in that, killing that creature, you all, well, everyone involved in that's in this room, end up getting, let me get this, my math again, 575 gold pieces. That's each one of you. Okay? Okay. For the Shadow Goblins, everyone was involved in that. Okay? This is the big one.
That's what those guys outside said.
Yeah. Right on. Yeah, I get you. So, everyone involved in that gets 2 platinum pieces. Okay? Everyone that was involved with the fight with Adam, raise your hand. Just Sha-dae.
Who?
Adam. That was that construct Dave DeVito
Art?
piloted.
Oh, Art.
Oh, it was Adam. Was it Art? It was Art.
It's Art.
Okay. Art. So who was that? That was Oma. You. Okay. You guys get.
That was the episode of Brahmas helping everybody else.
Yeah. Okay. That's going to be 20 gold for each of you and 50 silver.
I feel bad. Like, should we for Danny? Should we have somebody else pick up his money for him?
Already got it taken care of.
Okay, cool.
Because if you remember correctly, we kind of discussed this. Aeolus, he owes Aeolus a lot of money.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, Aeolus has already had something to do with intercepting some of this already. Yeah, it's came to him through the proper channels. If he gets to see a penny of this, he'll be damn lucky. It's they have a very strange relationship, and he and Danny has pushed it to its boundary.
Cool.
And none of you all were a part of the crypts, correct? You didn't.
And we also talked. Miyasha got her stuff right too.
No, not yet. That's something different. She's getting that in her own time.
Okay, just making
Okay.
sure. I was about to say I'll put money in my bag for our people if we have to.
No.
Insight check.
Yeah, right on. No. To keep track of your totals, because she'll have got the same thing, but she got the letter when we last played. She just hasn't been a part of this yet. So that would be everything. So that's what you guys have to use now. Okay. He also, once he's done with that, he gives Vander a certain amount of it that is undisclosed as he lays it up on the counter, and he also gives him a promissory note of some kinds, and he goes for storage of the item and for research. Vander humbly nods his head and agrees with all these things, and says to Sylowen, because he knows you're an avian, he says, "Have you seen Ignatius?"
I have.
There is something I need to give him, but it needs to be in person. I know that he still recovers from the attack from the frostworm. If you do see him, please tell him to seek me out, or I could simply meet him at the castle, whenever he would so choose. Would you do that for me?
I could.
Okay. he nods to you, Tamyra, and he says, a portion of this has already been paid towards your vessel, which is the ship that you're using to transport goods back and forth from Tordane, where you're from, to here. It was called the Tiger's Eye. It was something that you guys confiscated from a criminal here in town. You've been refurbishing it to do work for the city instead of be a smuggling trade vessel. Okay. And so there's a certain amount of rewards. And he shows you a piece of paper that is a contract that shows what has been paid in towards the Tiger's Eye. And it looks significant. At first glance and looking it over, it's good news. Okay, there'll be some decent repairs and some things added to it that will be very useful for what you're doing. With that, he says, "I have."
At that, sorry, as Sha-dae
Oh,
overhears the mention of the Tiger's Eye. I don't know if I'm not sure if Sha-dae knew about it before, but his ears kind of perk up at that.
Okay. Roll a history check.
Ooh, something Sha-dae is not that great at.
Found it.
But I still got a 10.
Okay.
Total.
You don't know what this is about. Now you know that Tamyra is an ambassador of her city of Tordane, and you know that that is a shipping city. It's very close north. It's one of the furthest northern decent mortal territories that hasn't fallen to either the giants of the White Seas of the North or any of the craziness from the wastelands of Denneroth. It's one of the very few cities that has a group of paladin-like people called the White Swords of the North that are badass enough to have vessels go back and forth on these long rivers called Denneroth's Veins that go from the very northern place of Tordane to here to ship goods back and forth. And you know that Tamyra is trying to reestablish those passages. And she's trying to make it where there's more trade between her home city on behalf of Rylan, which is pretty much who she would call her High Lord. I mean, the Grand Pumbaa, if you will. And this ship was taken over by the city from someone of villainous nature. But you don't know many more details than that. You know the name Tonja, Tonja, was the person that was defeated and killed that used to have possession of the ship. That's it. Okay. With that, he turns and he picks his sword back up and puts it back onto his back. He goes, "I have a lot more of these to deliver, and the other guards will be taking care of that as I'm still tending to the king. He's still recovering from everything he's been through recently." He says, "But this one I wanted to bring myself. And I wanted to thank every one of you personally for investing your time and sacrificing what could have possibly been your lives for the betterment of the city. And I'll do everything that I can to make sure it's worth it for you to remain here and fight the fights that need to be fought. It's appreciated." With that, he turns to leave. Is there anybody else that says anything before he goes? Okay. So, with that, he leaves. Vander, with a deep voice from the background, has stood there, silence, the whole time, and says, in a cheesy kind of way, says, "Well, adventurers, I believe I could call you all that now officially. You have coin. You have goods. What will you do with it?" He looks around at all of you. And he looks at Oma and kind of grins. Because he knows that you're not used to having, And he says, "And where will you go from here?" As always, my door is open to you. I have several artifacts that could use the aid of some adventurers to bring back into my bring back to this safe haven. But don't let me be your first option. He says, go out, explore. He goes, but know that I look at you now as accomplished adventurers. And if there's ever some adventure you're seeking, I can surely give it to you. With that, what are you all doing? What's the group doing?
I would say Tamyra is going to pull out 5 gold and give Vander a handshake and give him the 5 gold and say, thank you for the hospitality. I will be seeing you soon. And then Tamyra is going to head back to the Heart of the Beast.
Okay, with that, he accepts it graciously and looks to you and he says, we look forward to having you. Okay?
Sha-dae will, before Tamyra leaves the shop, just really quickly, can I meet you at the Heart of the Beast? I want to speak to you about something.
Absolutely.
Sure. And then she's going to turn to Vander and is like, do you have my crossbow?
He smiles. He says, Ember, do you have that still? And you can hear her. There's a long silence where she normally would answer if she knew right off the top. There's this awkward pause. Let me see something. She knows exactly where it is. Yes, you hear her young female voice call out, oh, is she here? And you hear the footsteps across top loft, and all of a sudden you see the bright silvery blue eyes of Ember and the long blonde hair. The pretty little girl puts her fingers up over the railing and looks down at you. Looks to be about 10 years of age. This hood that she wears is a bluish like robe now with silver inlay on the inside of it. And as she pulls the hood back, she's looking down at you, and she goes, right. Give me just a moment, okay? She backs in, and you can hear more running and scurrying going on upstairs. As she brings it to you, she rushes at first, and she realizes that she has to second guess herself. And she looks for just a minute, and she goes, and she doesn't know what to say. Vander crosses his arms and looks at her and says, go on. It was your decision to do this, so go on and do it. She goes to hand you this crossbow. And I want you to do a perception check, Sha-dae.
No bad. It's a 19 total.
Okay. You know what you asked for was fairly a basic thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And she isn't handing you a basic thing here. This looks more elaborate. And as she does, she starts explaining herself as she's bringing it to you. She's saying things like, I know that you'd only asked for, just another crossbow, and that's fine and all. I just I couldn't help but notice your friend, and she points at your sword on your side, and she goes, I have a friend at the Elven Crafts named Iveron, and he owed me a favor. And to get himself out of some trouble, I had him do this. It's a little bit of an additional cost on your part, just to keep me out of trouble. She kind of swallows hard. She goes, but he assures me that it'll be worth it. As she hands over the bow to you, it looks to be made in the style of your rapier.
Okay.
It is adorned with a black feathered mystique, It is dark wood that has been, roasted in a way. It makes it feel very light. It feels very sturdy. The limbs are of a darker metal material, and the crossbow bow bolts have black feathers on them. Okay. The heads on these, you have 20 that you requested. 10 of these are armor piercing. This is important to write down. 10 of these are armor piercing, and 10 of these are what they call savage or bleeding heads. Okay. Initially, to just get a basic crossbow and do some things like this would have been about 5 gold. Okay. Which is about $500. She tells you this one would have been much higher than it actually is, but to keep her out of trouble, this would cost at least 9. And she kind of looks at you scared when she says that. She backpedals and she goes, I can work it off. He owed me a favor, but not that big of one. But I thought, and she kind of stops herself. She just got overwhelmed. Vander staring at you, just seeing what you'll do with the news of this.
It's going to cost 9 gold pieces?
It could only be 5.
Tell you what.
I would have to, and she doesn't know what quite to say.
Tell you what. Because you took the initiative, I'll give you 20, and you can keep the change.
She looks at you, and she looks confused. Like she was completely ready to just pour out, excuses, like ridiculously. And Vander can't help himself. You hear come from the background as he gets a kick out of this. With these arrows, I need you to know this. Okay, write this down. With the armor-piercing ones, these arrows do double damage versus the breaking point and armor points when they hit.
Okay.
Now that's not double to the person, but when they hit armor, they do double the damage because they are piercing arrows. Okay. The other ones, the other 10, the bloodletting ones or the vicious ones, people have to actually take an action to withdraw these arrows from them after you've hit them with them, if they sink in. Now, when they withdraw the arrow, it does 1d4 damage. Okay, or I'm sorry, 1d6. And for every round that they're left in, they suffer 1d4 bleeding. Okay? Those are things to know. So here's the thing. You load something up on those, like you're taking down a big baddie, and it's got 5 of these in there, you're tapping the maple tree. You know what I mean? Syrup will come with some flow. So these things do have an effect. But that's the way these arrows are equipped. There seems to be something special about this bow, other than it's just its basic design, but you don't have the ability to know exactly what that would be. But you can tell there's something strange. You have Isadora. You know the look of something of this style and nature, and this mimics it quite a bit. And if this is made by this young person that she knows called Ulran at the Elven Workshop, maybe there could be answers there. You don't know. But there seems to be something special about the bow itself. Okay?
Yeah.
Anyone else saying anything?
I would like to talk to Vander privately.
Outstanding. Okay. Do you want to wait till everybody else kind of leaves, or are you just going to kind of hang back and wait around for a minute? Or do you
I'm
want
gonna hang back and wait around
Okay.
before I say anything.
Okay.
Well, how
so-
much do I trust Vander?
Well, as far as what you've seen so far, he seems to have a high standing. He was a shelter place for everyone to come here and get their payment. And Valimar, the Grey Knight, the right hand of the city, just came in and paid him for the procurement and holding of the mask.
Yeah, but I mean, like, is he money hungry?
Roll perception check.
I was gonna say, Brahmas reassured you too that
Yeah.
Vander was a big deal, like big help to him.
Roll perception check.
Tamyra paid him the 5 gold for the hospitality and for Valdera's, like, that machine he gave her.
That's a dirty 20.
Yeah, which he never even asked for money for that too, by the way. Yeah. He seems to be very aware of the situation that goes on, and what he's banking on doesn't seem to be material. It's an investment in people.
All right, cool. Then I totally trust him. All right.
Okay.
So I hand him
seems to be his thing.
500 gold, and I tell him to distribute it to the needy
Okay.
as he sees fit, including the orphanage.
Okay, now remember, we haven't found an orphanage yet. So you're telling him, metaphorically speaking, you're hoping that there's an orphanage and you want him to send it to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Roll a persuasion check.
With advantage?
No.
Oh.
Absolutely not.
Persuasion. Oh, it's only +3. 17.
Okay. As much as you feel this moment overwhelms you, not understanding what this actually means in your hands, and that you've never needed it before, and you ate this morning, you've done this, you've done that. This is an awful lot. Why would you need this? This would normally go.
That's exactly what Sylowen's thinking. She's just like,
Yep.
I don't need this money. Give it away.
Having said that, when you go to hand this to him, he looks at you warmly, and he takes on a very low tone to his voice, soothing, almost as a parent would be to someone teaching a lesson. Okay, a parent would be teaching a lesson to a lesser. Okay, and he looks at you, and you never realized quite how green his eyes were before, but they are very green, especially for a mortal. And he looks at you, and he says, Sylowen, this speaks volumes of your character. And he goes, but I have a question for you.
Yes.
You know where the rain comes from?
What did you say?
The rain. Where does the rain come from?
From above?
Yes, but where does it start? Where does it go? How does it come back to us? Do you know where the rain comes from?
Do I just dive into like a scientific explanation? Because that's what I would do.
Roll an intelligence check.
Get your hand out of my way.
I just want popcorn. Jesus.
I don't know.
Well, that's not good.
Damn popcorn Nazis in here. You gotta be careful, man. You gotta be careful.
Intelligence. Oh, that's over there. Okay. Well, that's gonna be a solid 9.
Solid 9. You explain it being put on the spot kind of in a way that makes him think you have an idea,
Cool.
but you don't really quite know where the rain comes from.
Okay.
He says to you, I would rather stem the flow of bad doing by giving you this money now, rather than use it towards the damage that bad doing can do later. For instance, and he looks upstairs to where Ember would be, and he says, if children ever become orphans, there's no need for an orphanage.
Why can't we do both?
He says, if you save lives, And he puts that stuff and he puts it back into your hand. He says, there are no deaths. He goes, if you rescue folks, there are no unrescued people. He says, this is the cycle. And it starts.
And I say, Vander, I've never had money before in my life. What does this mean to me? This right here is enough food for many children now, not in a year.
He says, and what will you do tomorrow?
I still have 2,000 platinum or 2 platinum. I'm fine.
Tell you what, I interrupt. If you don't need the money, Sylowen, I will gladly take it off your hands.
No.
And he holds a hand out to Sha-dae like, that's a valid option, but you
I
automatically
take the money
say
back
no.
and I walk to an orphanage. Good Lord.
Okay. Sylowen leaves, pouting, upset, heavily stepping. The wing is going like it's behind her, smacking people as she walks out of the room. She's like,
Absolutely.
Like,
I like jam Vander by accident.
He's like, okay. So as she leaves, Vander looks at Tamyra with a large grin on his face. And he says, please watch her.
Oh, yeah, because I'm about to get into trouble.
Okay.
Tamyra says she'll keep an eye out.
Okay. So with that, do you head after her?
Well, I'm heading to the heart of the beast. I don't know where Sylowen's going.
Oh, yeah,
Neither
she's
do
already
I.
left.
Neither do I. So it's all good. Brahmas. Sylowen just took off and she needs guidance and you're it, buddy. What are you thinking?
I think he's at a loss at this point, trying to figure out how to just keep up with her.
The head every once in a while, Brahmas just goes. He's just kind of. He's not quite sure what to do.
Okay, we also express the fact that I come from a utopia where nobody's homeless and nobody's hungry. So, like,
correct.
coming to like the world here, like all I see is like just the pain of the people on the streets, and it's like really bothersome to me.
Yeah, it's pretty epic. It's fun. Yeah, you're right. That's very true. I mean, this isn't like downtown LA where there's like homeless people living on benches.
Sha-dae will follow after Sylowen and then meet up with Tamyra whenever.
Okay.
Beast. Yeah.
That's cool. So we know where you guys are going. We know where Tamyra's going. Brahmas, what do you think of what you're doing, buddy? You just had this thing. You just had this revelation about this thing. Vander has information most times. Plus, you have Ignatius that's not here. You have all kinds of shit. All kinds of shit. You might even want to find your buddy, whatever his name was, the stone guy, and have a beer with him. I mean, you got all kinds of shit to do. What are you thinking?
I know Oma's wanting to talk to him in private. How far away, being in the library section of the shop, be private enough for them? Or do you think it'd be too close?
Roll a perception check, please. I'll tell you why in a minute. You're making me want popcorn, Kara, damn it. And I've got a sore throat. Yeah, I see you. I see you there. Okay.
Yeah, perception?
Yeah.
That's a 7.
Okay. You think so. You think that Oma is kind of hanging around looking like she wants to, and you're not quite sure she's not coming right out and saying things in very Oma fashion. She's kind of staying back, a little withheld. You think the upstairs would be okay. What's your plan here? What are you thinking about doing, Brahmas? Talk to me.
Hey, given what he's seeing with the sea snake and then the Valkyries and everything else, I think he'd want to peruse his library just to see if maybe he's got any kind of open source information on anything like myths and lore and things of that sort that would describe the things that he's seen.
Okay, so are you going to ask him, or are you going to ask Ember, or how do you want to go about it?
I think he'd go ask Ember, since she's the one that handles the books the most. Plus a little bit of homework for her.
Cool. We'll say you guys go upstairs. Okay. Just briefly, so we're going to get ready to take a break here in just a second, is why I'm saying. Talk to Ember and tell her, as you do, and you go upstairs, you can see that she has a stack of books that Vander has given to her, and she has several. Have you been upstairs in her room before? You've seen it, I think.
I may have, I don't recall though.
You remember me ever describing it to you? It's like a mystical kid's attic room in the very back of this. The very top of this loft area is a triangle-shaped place where Brahmas would have to duck down once he went up the steps into the back and got into the very back of it, almost like the very peak of a ship, like a little room in the back of a ship, is what her room would look like up here. She's close to the ceiling, and there's a huge bay window that's open where she always looks out the back of the city and looks at all the people that goes by. And she has this very cozy little loft up here that she's made a room, and she has this round table with stacks and stacks of books and little pieces and scraps of memorabilia. She might have like a coaster for a beer from the drunken mug, and she might have a lock of somebody's hair hanging there and have some notes written about it. And it's a very neat place. She has a multicolored rug on the floor, and she would even have some blocks that she has put up in some kind of what's the word, constellation like shape. Very interesting. All kinds of different flower petals laying on different things. It's almost druidic the way she has this done up here. That's where she stays in the very back of this. Now, before you go up in that loft towards the back, there's the big library on top, and we're talking 180 foot long. It's long, and it's got several different shelves where you couldn't reach the top shelf. You'd have to have the ladder. When you go up those steps to the very top, there's almost like this balcony area. You can see her back there, a couple rows back, picking up those stacks of books that Vander had handed to her and she dropped earlier. What are you saying to her? She hears your steps and she looks over her shoulder and continues to pick up the stuff, but doesn't address you straight out.
If there's still books laying around, he would kneel down, start helping her pick them up.
Okay. As you do, it's awestruck for a minute, and then she looks at you, kind of like, "Whoa, he's strong." She goes, "How would I say this is her? Let me be a 10-year-old little girl for just a minute." She would say that if you were planning to stay around for a while, because you've been staying here, right?
I have.
I could. There are so many things we could do together. You could help me with some things. And she seems to be looking up really high on this one particular shelf in a place where she's not quite been able to get. And as you do, and you see this, there's one large book up there. Okay? It seems like it's about this wide. And she kind of looks at it and she kind of bites her lip. And she's looking up there at it and she goes, would you mind if you, I can't get it myself, and I just know that it's going to have some of the answers I've been looking for.
Do I get the impression that it's like something she can't lift, or she just can't reach it?
Can't lift it. She could reach it if she wanted to. She can't lift it. It's too heavy.
And is it within my reach?
No. You'd have to use a ladder. And you'd probably break the ladder. So you're picking up all these books. In one way or another, you're going to ask her for what? What are you looking for?
I was going to ask her if she knows of any kind of lore of a giant serpent, giant water snake, and Valkyries to that effect.
Okay. Roll a persuasion check with advantage because you helped her pick up the books and she's fond of you.
$22.
Oh, you crushed it. Yeah, she got a natural 5. She does. Roll me a 1d4. Okay.
I don't know what happened there.
You're right, buddy. So, do you roll 1d4 for me? Alex, I like your background. That's cool.
Oh, thanks.
That looks like that part of the
Dude.
story you were talking to me about.
Mhm.
Okay, what was the first D4, Jeremy?
The 2.
Okay, and roll another one.
2.
Okay. She's able to find 2 tomes on each topic. Okay. And she lays them out on her little table back in there. And she kind of says, I really am not supposed to be the one that does this, but Vander seems to like you just fine and trust you, especially if you're staying here. I just, if you don't mind, just don't leave the shop with him, okay? You can read them up here if you want. Just don't tell him.
Your secret's safe with me.
She looks at you with
And-
almost wide eyes, excited by that. Yeah, so like, that's awesome.
In the meantime, I will see about that book.
She smiles and she goes off and she's kind of gives you a knowing nod, and she goes back to her work. Oma, at that point, Brahmas is upstairs. You hear his deep, almost metallic, like inner voice, almost like he talks like he's within a well, saying soft words to Ember upstairs. You see that Vander and you are alone downstairs, and as he is looking at that urn, and grabs an empty book and begins to fill out some literature on it, this relic that Sha-dae had handed him back. He looks up to you through his eyebrows, and he goes, "Now I believe it is your turn."
Hello. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you know about the lasting effects of cursed items once they've been removed?
And would this have anything to do with the mask that I've just been given? And remember, they took the 2 parts of the goblin mask that came off of Gleandra and gave it to him for safekeeping already.
Gotcha.
So he asked that. What do you say in return?
Yeah.
He notices your little bit of hesitation, but then you just kind of come forward and say what you say. He shuts the book he's writing on and puts the quill back into the ink jar. And he rubs his beard and takes a long, deep breath. He looks at you. He says, I can tell you this. And don't let this be your system of judgment of others. That item, not just anyone could use that. You have to choose. You have to make a decision to take that on. And if this Gleandra is truly a decent person and trustworthy a person, as some of these folks say she is, it just doesn't add up.
Right.
And if she seems cursed now,
Mhm.
if she seems not sleeping, waking up, and as he says that, he's nodding his head, he's looking at you, seeing that you're recognizing the words that are leaving his lips, as if you're like, yeah, that's what she's going through. He says, then there's something a lot more powerful at work than just a broken mask. If she does not recover in a week, please let me know, and I may have something that could help. He says, but I would ask this of you. He goes, and I mean this sincerely. He goes, and I know your heart. He goes, and I know what you mean to Aeolus and the friends you've made here so far. If you see something dark in her, even if it isn't something you want to see, you need to let somebody know.
Okay.
Like I said, somewhere deep inside of her, she made the choice to wear this mask.
Okay.
If she does that again, remains to be seen. As far as getting rid of curses and over time, the first step is, one, it has been taken from her. 2, the mask is inoperable. 3, the souls that were within it were released upon the city, as you know. They have been destroyed, so there's nothing fueling this item anymore, this broken item. But it doesn't mean it couldn't be tethered back together and refilled. It is a living vessel that I am going to need some time to learn more about before I can decide. And hopefully the natural course of things will cure her before that kind of time elapses. This is going to take some studying. I've got a few people, colleagues of mine, in No Jill, that are looking into this for me now. And if I hear something, Oma, I'll let you know.
Alrighty. I appreciate that.
And I appreciate you. And he says, so tell me, how long is it until Aeolus is asking you for loans? And he kind of chuckles and smiles. Do you have an answer, or you just laugh at that? You hadn't thought about it, maybe. As you sit there and ponder this, he looks at you and sees the wheels turning. He says, just be that considerate if the offer's ever made to, I don't know, maybe invest or partake in some gambling. Just be careful.
Mhm.
Okay? Was there anything else I could help you with?
Do you know of any, like, are there banks in the city? Is that a
Okay.
thing?
So there is, but it's
Mhm.
usually for wealthier people that aren't exactly adventurers. They're investors and things of that nature. If you would have this, your best bet, out of character, would be to give this to Aeolus for safekeeping on the ship, and then to ration that out and keep hold of it to you. That would be your best way to go about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was kind of figuring that would
Yeah.
be my route.
So in some roundabout way, he would mention it to you because he knows you don't come from a place where wealth is usually something spread around. I mean, you've been in the stone circle for a while. The city is a slave. You know how these things work. But back home, everyone just kind of chipped in and did things together and lived off the land. So, yeah, your best bet would be to go through Aeolus, and you would feel that you owe him this debt, even though you know you don't, and you work and you do amazing things for him. You're still very humbled by him and the freedom he gave you. So, yeah.
Just as a general note to anybody in the party, if they don't want their money, feel free to give it to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Sylowen's like, all right, I don't like Sha-dae again. I just decided.
Sylowen, wherever she is on the street, just goes, no. And she has no idea why.
Yells it out.
What's that? Sha-dae's offering to be the party banker?
Nice. Record
Yes,
low interest
all
rates,
according to
everybody.
them.
Record low. All right, so with this, let's take a little break. Everyone kind of think about what they're going to get into next, and we'll get back on here just before 9. We'll do another half hour of this and try to decide what everyone wants to get into now that we've got a new day and we got some money in our pockets and all that other good shit. Does that sound good?
Mhm.
Okay. I'm going to pause recording. 3, 2, 1 now. Okay, we're recording again. So, now that we're recognizing the amount of vegetation that Karen and Heather have going on, we're all good. H2O levels are high. let's go ahead and get back into this. So, Oma, you've just had your moment. They're asking him if there was something that you could procure from him, possibly, or any kind of knowledge about curses and cursed items and the way to get over them. And there's something I do want to do just a touch different before your conversation is over. He would actually reach down underneath of the main workbench, the bar that he's at, and he would hand you a book. Okay?
Oh.
And he would put his hands on it, and he would hold it as if it's something dear to him. And he'd say, I normally don't let people take literatures from this place because adventurers often don't bring them back. But you, I'm willing to make an exception for. And when you do, if you could do something for me in return.
Sure.
Bring Medelia by with you sometime. I'd like to speak of her further on a conversation we started about a week ago.
Alrighty.
And then when you're done with this book, please return. If you have any questions, I would like to discuss with you what you find in it. Okay? Okay. He slides the book across over to you.
What is the book?
It is a medium-sized book that seems to be newer-ish. It is bound in a gray fabric, almost coarse. And when you open up the book, it's called The Price We Pay. Okay? And it has a picture of a scale, almost like the justice scale that we use. Okay? It has a sun on one side of the scale and a moon on the other side of the scale. And a person holding in the middle that has a double face, almost like an angel and demon hybrid, holding the scales instead of Lady Justice. Okay? And it talks about it's a reworking of different literatures and things found on the very topic that you're curious about. Okay? When you have spare time, you tell me. It will take you roughly 10 hours to get through it. So you might want to write that down. And then whenever you're traveling or you have downtime, we'll roll to see how many pages of it you're able to get through and what you gather from it and what that might bestow upon you as far as knowledge, abilities, things like that.
Cool.
Okay? All right. You have that in your possession now. So, Brahmas, you're upstairs, Mirk, and you are going through, you have 2 books there, 2 books there. Let's go ahead and talk about those books. And want to write this down, okay? The first book will take 4 hours to go through. This is the one on Valkyries. Okay. The second book will only take about 1 hour for you to go through. And it's a collection of tales and mystical or like fantasy, kind of like grim story tales of Valkyries. And this is some of the things that you're familiar with. Okay? The other 2 books, this one's quite large. This will be 6 hours to go through this one particularly. And remind me again, you're doing 2 on that, and you're doing 2 about, okay. So this is about the mythos behind a creature called Leviathan. Okay? The mother serpent. All right? And then the last book will only take 3 hours to go through. And this one's called Before There Were Men. Okay? And this one speaks about the initial guardians of the world, and have they been resting and waiting, and stories about their true forms and people actually seeing them. So this one almost sounds like someone taking something mythological like Bigfoot or something silly, but writing a very serious, fact-based tome about it. You feel in this one there could be something here, but you've just got to sift through the bullshit to find it. Okay? That's what you have. So, Sha-dae, you are going after Sylowen. So I'll ask the two that are the bookworms here. Are you wanting to spend the remainder of your day going through these literatures and going through the town and finding things? Or do you have something else on the back burner that you were wanting to do? You would, Alex, you probably would want to get back to Gleandrias at some point. And knowing what Vander has said to you, check on her periodically, report with Aeolus and tell him what you found, what you think it will take to get her better. Things like that would be on your agenda. But all that might be up top in Skywatch. Okay?
Right.
Brahmas or Mirk, what were you thinking about doing at the rest of your day? You just want to read up, or you got somewhere you want to go?
He's got a couple of things he's been thinking about that he'd like to do, but right now this is the first and foremost. Like, he wants to get to the bottom of this.
Okay, cool. So we know where you're at. We know what Elma's up to. Okay, so now the rest of us. Tamyra, let's head back to the heart of the beast. Sha-dae was wanting to meet her there.
Correct.
But after I caught up with Sylowen.
Sylowen, correct. Okay. Sylowen. It's a big, big city. You've been a lot of places here. There's a lot of places you haven't been. What is on Sylowen's mind? And what are you trying to do now that you have wealth?
Well, she's just horrified by all of the poverty she sees. Even if it's not a lot, that's way more than what she's ever seen.
Correct. I get that. Okay.
So I guess she'll just I don't know, she walks by somebody who's homeless, she's just giving them a gold and then walking towards the orphanage.
Okay. So, first off, you don't know of any orphanage.
Okay. Well, then I'm asking about orphanages with people around me.
Okay. So, Sha-dae, here's what you see. Okay.
The one's just being super stubborn.
No. Heather, you make this very, very fun. Okay, so let me just applaud you first for that.
Is Sylowen about to adopt like 90 kids?
We're about to see they may be adopting her. We don't know what's going on. She may be a folk hero. But and a bard thing, she'll be singing songs about him and shit. It's going to get good. Okay. So, Sha-dae, in a very short amount of time you were inside the shop and Sylowen was released from watchful eyes, as you go out, you see by the fountain 2 or 3 kids that are like just, oh, could you believe it? Wow, oh, wow. And they're talking about things. They said, what are you going to do? I'm going to get the biggest piece of taffy. Oh, my God. And they're all just they're just ecstatic. And you just can't help but go, oh, dearie. And you see this, and you can just see little poofs of physical happiness that have erupted going down the street in a certain direction. And you just know that this has been Sylowen.
Oh, can I also state that I did leave my 2 platinum with Brahmas?
Okay, we can say that, but it's up for him if he wanted to take it or not. So, if you were getting ready to leave,
he would have done it.
He would have.
I imagine they're heavy, so I feel like I would just leave them with him.
Actually, lighter than the gold.
Oh, well, still left them with Brahmas.
It's all good. Brahmas, as you were trying to say something to stop that, you looked back up from your hand with the platinum in it, and the door was closing. she's like, to help the people. Sure. She just took off, okay? So as you're like, but no, she's gone. Sha-dae, you're seeing little poofs of happiness.
Mhm.
Of what do you do?
Well, follow the trail that she's blazing and eventually want to catch up with Sylowen, which I think, even at walking speed, I will get to her pretty quickly.
We're hoping about a block.
Yeah.
I've got about 5 gold a block right now. Is
Mhm.
what we're calculating. So we're going to see how this goes.
Mhm.
Someone is amazing. The gratitude. Do you not feel only for these people, and you're bonding with them? You're giving them what they need. All these people need is a little bit of help, and someone needs you. You don't need this; they need this. And the more you give, the better you feel. Before you know it, you are going back into your barred ways. You are twirling and dancing and singing and going about this, and you are completely enchanted with this prospect, the light in the people's faces. And you start thinking about, like, what about the sick ones? Only the sick. No, the old ones. The old ones deserve it because they can spread their knowledge. What about the hospital? Is there a hospital? The homeless shelter? Where do I? And all the shit comes rushing to you. And as you are stopped there in a dumbfounded moment, trying to decide the best way to do this, you see Sha-dae approach you with a very crossed look on his face. And go ahead. What are you guys doing?
I immediately say, if you're here about my money, you're not getting it.
I could care less about your money. Well, not so much me taking your money, but me giving you a sense of realism and here with us lowlanders. Would you mind accompanying me for some tea and a conversation?
She looks at Sha-dae and says, "Are you paying?"
Of course.
Then let's go.
So quickly find a tea shop that serves cream tea. So tea, scones.
You could do that.
That'd be great.
I will say, at the bottom of the steps to the Sanctuary of Wrath, the temple that you are very familiar with, Sean, there are several different booths that have tables out there that are made of wrought iron. They're like black that you can see through. They're very Paris-like feeling. And they're at the bottom of the stairway, and you notice some of the monks will come down and have tea after a long day of practice in some of these places, and they have things like it. It's an outdoors thing, okay? And there's several different people already sitting there, several different tables, and you see one is emptying out to some folks just as soon as you all seem to walk up. They're umbrellaed over to a degree. Now, this being wintertime, these umbrellas are put up and things like that, and there are small fires and those like portable fire pit things that you would move around. They have different ones, and they actually will start one in the middle of the tables for you, as there's a stone bowl that they'll put coals in and things of that nature. As you go there, you've had tea there many times before. I'll let you take it from there.
Come sit with me, Sylowen, and let's have a discussion. Now, noticed you're very upset with the amount of poverty in this town.
Wouldn't you be? Or wouldn't anybody be?
Yes, I can see how someone from a idyllic world can see how this level of poverty is shameful. What is it
Indeed.
like where you live?
Well, I mean, I'm going to take some liberties here, Brian, and just make this
No
utopia.
blood sacrifice.
No, we're fine.
Okay, we're not that many beers in yet. We're good. Okay. Now, the other day, I don't know if you guys were here for that. Alex, you missed it. That was letting. She had a pretty good buzz, and she goes, "Brian Kynes, are you letting me do backstory on the avians? Because I'll do it." And I said, "Absolutely." And she went straight to blood sacrifice rituals and shit. And I was like, oh no. It was funny. But anyway, with caution and care, please continue, Sylowen. Please continue.
You should let me have creative liberties. It goes dark every time.
That was so funny.
Okay, well, where I'm from, there is no money. We have what we need and what we want, and we share. There is no poverty. There is no, everybody takes care of each other.
And that's all well and good. But down here, things work differently. And to have this naive realism that everywhere is like where you are is, how should I say it, not ideal. Take, for example, where I'm from, the city of Argonross, known as the City of Ravens. We were founded by outlaws and criminals. We earned our independence fighting alongside Gumdar in the war. They wanted to absorb us back. We said no. And thus, the city's very foundation is on the idea that one must earn their place. One must earn what they need. And the only one you can depend on is yourself.
What a sad world.
Yes, it is quite sad. In fact, I was found as a baby on the side of the street by some woman. Don't know who my parents were. And she used me to get ahead. I was her prop baby to earn whatever money she could. And when I was no longer a baby, I was left alone. And I had to fend for myself on the street, just like every other abandoned child. It wasn't until several years later that I met Gleandra, and she became convinced that I could be of use to her. She treated me fairly, and we both understand that in the end we must further ourselves. So I understand your frustration, but to just be so willful to give your resources to others, from our point of view, it's not so easily done. What do you do when you run out of these resources and you have nothing left to give? People become expectant at a certain point.
Do me a favor, Sean. Roll a persuasion check with advantage because of your speech just now.
Persuasion. That is +3 to the natural 20, so that's 23.
That's awesome. Okay. And what would be the counterpart of that, Sylowen? Was persuasion versus what? Jeremy, remind me. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting for some reason. Insight. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's insight on your side, Heather.
Good girl. Well, that's a nat 3.
Got a cat's ass. I get it. Okay. I'm going to say this. With the, I know that Sylowen has, and you've been very good about it. You are taking things at their face value because that's what you know to do. And you've had emotions that go up and down about different people and things of that nature. This is a person in Sha-dae that something inside you just doesn't want to trust, just from the natural look of Sha-dae. But this moment isn't the kind of conversation that you would have had back home. This is, once again, that element that Ignatius finds fascinating about these folks. And there's a realization that comes over you when Sha-dae says these words that I want to clarify for you. You know the lot of your life, now that you are able to wear what you wear and you're doing what you're doing and Brahmas is trying to help you find your true self. You realize that in him saying all this, and Sha-dae is saying this to you, were you ever truly free to do whatever you wanted? And what was the cost for living in a utopian society? Everything was provided for you, yes. But everything that you ever did was judged harshly. You know what I mean? Everything you did had to be had to be a certain way. And you didn't quite realize how enslaved you were by that mentality, by that culture of that place. And that's really put it in perspective, Sha-dae's words just now. With those roles, what Sha-dae has said has had a vast effect on you. And now I'd like for you guys to go ahead and continue your conversation.
I see your point, but
That was quick. No, I'm joking.
with one compromise. If I see a situation that we're already in where I can help somebody, I will. And I don't know that you can stop me.
And that is all well and good. All I am saying is, and while I'm doing this, my eyes are shifting to different people's eyes that I've seen, that I have learned to see through other people's eyes and understand other viewpoints.
Nice touch,
Sylowen
buddy.
is kind of horrified by that and not sure what to do. But she is straight in your eyes.
Like my eyes. So it's like first it's Sha-dae's regular eyes, and then it looks like Gleandra's eyes, and then it looks like Sylowen's eyes, and then it looks like Ignatius's eyes, and then it looks like Rachel's character, Miasha's eyes, and then it goes back to Sha-dae's regular eyes.
Point of inspiration for you, Sean. Write that down.
Okay. Okay, let me just write that down. Inspiration Avenue.
Power up.
Yeah.
Okay.
The point I'm trying to make, Sylowen, is what may be mundane to you is wondrous to us and vice versa. And what makes sense to you might not make sense to us and vice versa. Now, I'm not saying go out and don't do any good. By all means, it is your money. Do with it what you wish. But here, down here, we have to earn our place. We have to earn our resources. And that's all what we're trying to say, what I'm trying to say with this.
And what happens to those who don't earn them?
Somebody might come along like yourself and help.
Or
some don't. I have seen many people on the streets of Argynross die because they simply could not.
Sylowen files this away, but she's unsure if she believes that this is the right way.
Nice. Tamyra.
Yes.
You are headed back to the Heart of the Beast.
Correct.
Okay. When you go in there, you see Valdera leaning outside on one of the main pillars, and she's sharpening her sword from a standing position with her head down, fully armored. And you hear some people hustling and bustling, carrying some different cargo out of the place. And every once in a while, she'll look over to herself and you'll hear her say something to him, like a command of some kind. Okay? As you're approaching, is there anything you say particularly before you get close, or are you waiting to walk up and address the room, or do you want to go past her and go straight in? What do you like to do?
I guess I ask Valdera as I'm walking up, what have you gotten yourself into?
She looks up at you, and pleasantly to your surprise, she looks better. She's not great. She's still pale, but there are no fresh wounds on her. She doesn't stink like booze, and she has a smile on her face. And she looks at you, and she is right back into, she often acts like things are better than they are anyway. So it's a little bit off-putting you. You're silently judgmental of that because she's a people pleaser to a degree when it comes to you. Everybody else can fuck off. She could care. You, however, have a different place in her heart. And she says to you, she goes, don't you mean we? What
And
I've gotten us into.
Tamyra smiles and says, "That's what I wanted to hear."
She smiles. She goes, I had them pack enough stuff to where I think we'll have a pretty good trip of it. This one's going to be a fun one. And if you're with me on it, we've got the time for it. It's gonna help out business quite a bit.
Tamyra approaches her closer, puts her arm around her shoulder, and says, "Fill me in on the way. Let's go."
Okay. With that, you guys go inside to be briefed on everything that's going on. With that, Brahmas, I want you to roll me a couple investigation checks. Let's do one for each one of the books. We're going to make this where we're going to have a great start off to the next game. Tell me what your first one investigation is. This is for the first book. Remind me what it was.
It was just the book on Valkyrie.
Okay.
That is, you said investigation?
Absolutely.
12.
Okay. Okay, write that down beside it. What is your investigation check on the next one?
16.
Okay, write that down. And do the next two books the same way, please.
Dirty 20 and a 19.
Okay. So the 16 was on the second Valkyrie book. Okay. I have one thing to tell you before we quit tonight. You find a passage which is supposed to be the Tale of Ulran. Okay? And remember, this is the book that I said that sounds like, somewhat like fairy tales to a degree, but it seems like someone writing something based on fiction but in reality. I believe that was this book, wasn't it? The second Valkyrie book? Okay.
It was Tales and Lore.
Okay. The story of Ulran is written almost Shakespearean in its nature. It tells of a homeless man, which ties right into Sylowen's thing, which is be awesome. If it was a movie, the scene would cut and it'd be probably nice. And it tells of Ulran, the homeless man, that people shamed and spit on and threw down scraps of food forever. And he just sat there from day to day to day. And someone decided to go and ask him who he was and where he had lived. And Landon told stories of 5 different lives that he lived by. Okay? And he said stories to where when the Valkyrie called to him, he answered the call. And that's the thing he always says the same in each writing. When the Valkyrie called to him, he answered the call. That's like a repeating line in the books, in each chapter of this. Okay? And what you find fascinating is that his depiction of flashes of instances where he was asked to be a hero. He was asked to do these things in service of the Valkyrie. It just seems very strange. It's almost like he's having these little dreams and he's missing reality and dream where they stop and start. And at the very end of the story, the irony comes in to where this beautiful woman walks up with long white hair and goes to take his hand right in the middle of explaining his story to this historian. And says, Landon, it's time. And as he stands up and takes her hand, the two vanish in a plume of white feathers that seem to fall to the ground and then vanish as soon as they touch the streets. And the person writing it says, obviously, Landon's off to live another adventure. And it's a very interesting look into the supposed story of someone that has been blessed or touched by a Valkyrie. And it strikes home with what you're going through. But it raises more questions than gives you answers. And you know you've been given a second life. And you know where you were put, and you know who did it. And you kind of understand how, but you're not sure of the exact details of it, Mirk. But you know these dreams that you have and some of these things that you see are very, very real. And what if a Valkyrie is what gave you your second chance, really? You know, you're starting to connect some dots here with this fairy tale. But there's nothing here to find. It's like hearing epic stories about how the Ark exists in Christianity, but people just can't seem to find scraps of the wood for sure. You know what I mean? So it's a very interesting look into it. Okay. Lastly, with Oma, before we go ahead and get off here, as you head back to the ship, are you going to talk to Aeolus first, or are you going to talk to Gleandra, or to your own place, or to see where Dahan is, or whatever you like to do? What's the thing that Oma is doing?
I'd like to talk to Aeolus first.
Okay.
Having this much money on me makes me feel uncomfortable.
As you walk up, this is the scene that you see. You see Dahan and Aeolus in a heated debate. Dahan is standing about 5 foot from him, and his hands are in fists. And he's like saying things to the ground, and you can see him pointing up and yelling things and acting ferocious, as you've seen him do in the past. And Aeolus is just sitting back there, twirling onto his goatee and looking just increasingly arrogant and self-assured, and listening to him and just nodding and doing these poetic gestures with his fingers. This is okay, and then, and the two are having this debate. And when you get closer, you can hear it's over money. And it makes you kind of gulp, having yours on you. That's the place I want to leave you before we play next time. Okay? You're getting ready to get in that heated debate right now. So I think that takes care of pretty much everyone. We've got Tamyra possibly finding out what kind of hunt that they've got going on. We've got Sylowen and Sha-dae seeking some truth and trying to find some direction to go in the future. We've got Brahma studying up and finding out some mythos about Valkyries, maybe about why he's having some of the emotions he's having. And you're getting ready to give a report to Aeolus and maybe unload some money and calm Dahan down. Okay? Yeah. We'll try to do this again on Sunday if you all can. If you can't, that's fine, because if Alex can't and she's doing her thing, then she still is at that point. The rest of you can get together and do whatever we got to do. Yeah, what's up, Jeremy?
I want to run that idea by you about getting that book for her.
Okay, say it. Remind me.
Getting that book that Ember was trying to get a hold of.
Yep.
So, how high up did we determine that was?
$11 and a half feet.
Cool. All right. So
he's been thinking about this. That's why he's like, hold on now, damn it.
Brahmas can't climb the ladder.
Oh, you could certainly try.
But it'd be pretty confident that it's going to break under his immense weight.
Yeah.
However, now my argument is that an unoccupied space would be anywhere that your feet can touch something solid and stand on.
Okay, and your point is? Hey, don't you agree with him, Kara? Don't you be agreeing with him. You wait. You don't know where this shit is going. Okay, go ahead.
Brahmas would like to pull the ladder over to where this book is.
Mm-hmm.
Misty step up to the part of the ladder where the book is, nab the book, and just drop without breaking the ladder.
Okay. Go roll an Arcana check.
$16.
Okay. You're able to figure out that the spell will work quick enough where you can grab that briefly. As you grab the book, you are going to descend downwards from the. You are about 7 foot, so about 4.5 foot back down to the ground. As you do pop into reality and you go down, you are underestimating the weight of your girth being on the upper floor of this place. And when you land on the wood, I need to do a saving throw for that to make sure that you do not go through the roof like on Christmas Vacation and your legs are hanging through the ceiling. So,
Next saving throw.
well, really, dexterity didn't have a damn thing to do with it. You're going to land. Promise is coming down. Okay? Like Chris Farley. It's coming down. Okay? So the problem is, how does the floor feel about this? Just a minute. Okay, Sean, do me a favor. Roll me a 1d8 and tell me how many you get. Or just tell me what you get.
8.
The floor holds. But Ember runs to you automatically asking you what you did. Like a little kid, like, oh! You know what I mean? What I did was, I rolled some dice to see how thick the boards were. And the thicker the boards were, the more hit points they had. And it was a D4, a D6, a D8, a D10, D12. The floor had D8. You would have done 6 points of damage falling. I had Sean roll the hit points for the floor. He rolled 8. You didn't break it. Dice will help you, but you about fucked it bad, though. So you have the book in your possession. And as soon as Ember looks at you and it's like, what'd you do? You got the book.
He just kind of.
Right.
I say he would hand it to her, but he would put it down on the floor because he knows that she can't lift it.
Yeah,
but at
she
least
goes
it's somewhere
around. She's kind
accessible.
of like, she doesn't know quite how to grab it. It's big. You sit down on the floor, and she automatically, like the never-ending story, she automatically pulls her hood up over her and just lays down on the floor and flips through the pages, and it's just looking at this thing and flipping through reading it.
Worth it.
And we'll end tonight's thing there. So, I'll go ahead and do what I always do. We'll say our goodbyes. I'll pause this. We'll bullshit for a few minutes, then we'll get some sleep because tomorrow's Monday. So once again, this was a fun one. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. I appreciate you all for making time for this, and we'll do it again on Sunday. Take care.